Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of LastCallGaming. We're on episode number 98. My name is Craig Prowse, and joining me, as always, is Andrew Montemayor. And after a long trip from LA and back, Andrew, how did it feel to finally get home, crawl into your own bed, and have a good night's sleep?
It was nice to sleep in my own bed. I always get, I get tired kind of driving, even though I caught my, second wind after we got home, so I was up till, 5 playing games, but maybe it's usually, the next day, too, how people get, jet lag. After driving for, a few hours, I always get, really tired.
Really tired? You seem
really,
hey, you're a little trooper though. You get in there, you just kept going. I got home, dude, put on some Hulu, and I just did the normal routine, and I passed out. And
I had to shower first, especially after being around all kinds of people and shit like that. There's no way I was gonna get in my bed.
Right. So we're gonna dive into, guys, the trip we went to and all its entailings. But first, let's start with our drink of the week. This was Andrew's week to pick up a beer, and he picked up an old friend of the show, which is the Kona Big Wave. Now, the Kona Big Wave, if you guys are drinking with us at home, is a 4.4% alcohol. It's categorized as a golden ale and is made by the Kona Brewing Company. We've drank it on the show before, but it is just a good beer, and this is one of the, the beers I don't mind doing repeats of, especially after, we're saying, a long journey. It's nice to come back to an old friend.
Yeah, I'm still kind of tired today, and I definitely didn't want to, risk getting, some dog shit beer. I almost got one. Man, I don't remember who it is. I think it was, an Amberbach, but it's an Amberbach Peach. Oh. And so I almost ended up grabbing that, but I was like, no, because I feel like the last time we got a peach beer, it sucked. I'm not in the mood for a shitty beer today. Just wear something good.
Yeah, peach can easily backfire, because it really depends on who's making it, right? Because there's two different tastes in lime beers. Some of them make good ones, some of them make bad ones. You get a bad peach, and you couldn't drink it for hours.
Yeah, so I was definitely just not up for that. I was like, fuck that. I'll just stick to what I know, and then I'll get it on the next one.
Yeah, and I was impressed when I saw it. So if you guys are drinking at home, drink along with us, and feel free to recommend a beer for us to drink on the show. If we can find it, we will get it and drink it. But before we move further, guys, take a moment to hit the like button, hit the comment button, and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube. And if you guys follow us on all the social medias that you see pop up here. There's links in the description. And if you guys are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, whether that's on Spotify or iTunes or CastBox, leave us a kind review, because it does help us grow, and that is the name of the game. And I gotta say, we're doing pretty good so far. We're up to 3,500 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, so we definitely appreciate everybody, all the new friends. It's great to see, and I mean, hopefully we can just keep kind of going until we're gone and too big, and then we act like we don't know nobody.
Yeah, I'm the first one gone. Before we move into our main story, guys, we like to do What Are You Up To? That's where we catch up on any trips we had, any games we're playing, any movies we're watching. Now, since the trip that we had is going to be one of the stories that we're talking about, we'll hold off on that. So, as far as what I've been watching, because I've kind of been, I don't want to say a game slump, every so often, you play some games, you hit kind of like a stopping point, and you're like, all right, just need a break for a little bit. So I knocked out some movies, and the first one I did was, I guess it's not really a movie, but it was The Friends Reunion, which was on HBO Max. Have you seen that yet?
I don't like Friends.
You don't? Oh, I forgot. Cece likes Friends.
Yeah, I think she watched it. I'm 90% sure that she watched it. But that was one of those things, if she watches Friends in the room, I could be there and watch it, or she puts on before bed. I could sit there and, whatever, it's nothing I would put on, but I definitely didn't want to watch, some reunion shit. I was like, no, I'm out of that.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it just because there was that whole kind of, controversy with Matthew Perry, who's Chandler, slurring his words as he was talking, and they thought he was, either high or some shit, and I guess the answer was he just had, emergency, like a tooth problem or some shit. But I thought it was pretty good. I didn't care for James Corden being the host. I wish it would have been someone more important to Friends that was kind of hosting it, because
they've had a lot of people on the show over the years.
Tons of people. And I'm like, anyone could have hosted this thing except for him. He didn't do a terrible job. It's just for me, he was out of place in the whole thing.
I just feel like he's overrated.
He is. I think he's completely overrated. But the other thing I didn't care for is that, like you were saying, Friends has a lot of people that have guest starred on this show, and it seemed like every time they did a guest spot, like when Tom Selleck came on, or the chick that does Oh my god, Janice. Like, these people kind of popped up for 2 seconds, and then they were gone. And it would have been kind of cool if they were hanging around a little bit longer. Selleck probably had the longest stint, because you got to ask a question when they redid kind of like the trivia show. But overall, I enjoyed it. The second thing I saw, which was also on HBO Max, was the Space Jam: A New Legacy, the Space Jam 2 with
Best
LeBron
movie
James.
out right now.
I don't know, man. I thought it was very bad.
I won't even watch it.
The main problem I had is, well, I mean, I'll go down a small list, is the voices for all the characters. I get that it's not, Mel Blanc doing it anymore. I get that it's not even some of the original cast from Space Jam 1 not doing the voice. I'm okay with that, but they all just sound so off. I mean, if you were a kid like my nephew Grayson, he's not going to know the difference. I'm sure to him it would be fine.
Yeah.
But for me, going back when I'm still old enough to remember 1 to 2, I'm like, ew, this is like really rubbing me the wrong way. Especially when some of the other actors that were in number 1 are still alive. So it's like, why did you not go get? I think it's Tom Kenny or Billy West. I always get them mixed up. Who did Bugs Bunny? Lola Bunny was replaced with Zendaya, and I like her. But it's not Lola Bunny to me, and that was the first thing that threw me off.
I can get that, and that's why I didn't watch it. I forget what they called it when they remade Pokemon the movie and like 3 or whatever. Yeah. The voices were just so off for me that I was like, I don't want to fucking watch this. Like, it's not even close. Like, if it was kind of close and a little bit off, I'm like, okay, obviously that's not them. But I think they're doing a good job. The way like Troy Baker replaced like the Joker and
did a good job, yeah.
in Arkham Origins. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good and close enough so I'm like, okay, like at least you're still in the ballpark. You're in the same vein. Whereas, all right, I'm just going to take this and fucking do my own thing with it as if nothing else.
I'm going to make Lola Bunny mine. This is my character.
Yeah,
so,
it's like, get the fuck out
Yeah,
of
I didn't
here.
care for that. The other thing is what they did with Bugs Bunny, at least the way I always remember it. Bugs Bunny, like when he says Doc, it's just, what's up, Doc? And it's every once in a while. I mean, he'll maybe, every sentence Bugs Bunny says, like, ended with a Doc. And I'm like, ew, now you're
remember what's up,
Now
Doc,
you're ruining
that's
Bugs
it.
Bunny for me. And the other thing I didn't like was that there was, like, this whole, like, concept of like the father and son, obviously LeBron and his kid being like, oh, my dad won't let me do me. Oh, come on, son, do you. Like that was supposed to be like the message of like letting his son do him. And I hope this isn't a spoiler because it really kicks in the beginning of the movie. So if you think it's going to be a spoiler for you, I guess pause it here or move forward. The game turns into like this video game aspect of basketball. And for me, I'm like, well, then what's really the point of making it like this basketball game? Because the whole back and forth is like how he's not respecting his son, and that now they got to play a game so he can win his son back. But it's all this video game aspect of it, and then he's recruiting the team to get back all the Looney Tunes, and they all like they mentioned the old game. They're like, yeah, we've done this before, but yet like none of them remember how to play basketball except for Lola Bunny. So I'm like, as stupid as me saying this sounds, the movie just didn't make sense, for a wacky little, cartoon movie. And I don't know. And then you got people like my brother and like Dante who are like, oh, that movie was great and it was better than the original. And, to each their own. It's all subjective. If you like it better than number 1, that's fine. But I found like no redeeming qualities in this movie. It was a one-time watch to just, know what it is. And, after that, I'm like, dude, I'll never watch. I almost wanted to watch number 1 right afterwards.
I'd probably slap anyone who said that. This, I haven't even seen it, but just even based on trailer, the original is so good that I can't picture anything even being better than it. And from every review or anything that I've even seen a little bit of it, I'm like, yeah, there's no way that that's better than the original.
Yeah, so I don't know. For me,
so I don't know who's saying that.
Yeah, it was a pass. But as far as what I was playing, like I said, I didn't really play much over the week. But on Andrew and I's trip, my brother got me, I believe it's called a Game Vice. And essentially, it's just kind of like an Xbox controller. It's got Xbox buttons built into it that you can connect to your phone, and you can play games off the Game Pass and things like that. So while we were gone, I started playing Raji, which is that I believe it's like she's either Indian or something in that direction, and it's that 2D platformer game with all like the gods of Shiva and things like that. And then
I have no clue.
Oh, I gotta show you the trailer then. It was on, I forget, I don't want to say it was E3, but it was on an event a while ago. It looks really cool. And I played like the first like hour or two of it, and then I switched over to Spiritfarer because I started that game, and a lot of people gave it good reviews, and I kind of didn't really get into it in the beginning, but once I kind of had time to sit back and play it, it's actually a really good game, and I'm gonna keep playing it. But that's what I've been watching. That's what I was playing. And after, now that we're into this week, I'm going to hopefully beat Ratchet and Clank, hopefully, before we do our next show. So, What have you been up to?
So, as far as what I've been watching, I actually, No Clip YouTube channel, they do all kinds of documentaries on video games, and they actually get behind the scenes with the people, so they'll go and actually talk and spend like a month or two with the people at Bethesda or whoever it is that they're doing it on. They just put out one for Demon's Souls. It's called Demon's Souls Remaking a PlayStation Classic. And they went and spent time with Blue Point because I guess From Software's not kind of really into that whole behind the scenes sort of thing. So since Blue Point's the one who made it, they went and talked to them, and it was actually really good. It's like an hour long, and I was telling Craig too how they really get into, they want to make some things of their own. They don't want to make it just a one-to-one, but you got to keep the heart there and what's important. But then they're also talking about, okay, well, let's look at the old trophies. Let's say only 25% of people made it to the first boss, and then they just gave up. That only 25% of people beat them. Why? Why is that? Let's add a bunch of different things to the beginning now, like a higher drop rate for a weapon or something to make it a little bit easier. And so now in the new game, not that it's so much easier, but because you have a little bit more tools and a little bit better idea of what to do, it's got like a 75% clear rate. So it's like even higher than what it was. So I was like, that's really cool. I would never think to take like achievements or trophies and look back on that and try to design some sort of like game philosophy.
Yeah, I hope whoever came up with that idea like got a promotion. Like, yeah, let's go back and figure out where the stopping point was for a lot of these people on a game that's already considered really, really hard. And then kind of reverse engineer that and now make it more accessible. It's really cool.
And then I changed my mind on what I'm playing. I know before I had like kind of this weird plan, but I've decided
you always
that
got a weird plan.
I'm just gonna plow through every Yakuza and try and beat them all before Lost Judgment comes out. So
when's the date for that?
September 23rd.
Okay.
So I have like a month and a half. So I just finished Yakuza 4, so I just have 5, 6, and Judgment because I've already beaten 7. So I've heard 5 is kind of like a little bit long, but either way, I'm going to be cruising through those for a little bit in between like my Call of Duties, Rainbow Sixes, or, whatever little games I'm playing in between there. So that's all I've been up to.
Nice. So leave in the comments down below, guys, what you've been playing, what you've been watching, if you guys have done anything cool in these trying times. So let's move into our first story, and that is recapping Andrew and I's trip to LA when we went to go to the Hollywood Palladium to go to TorpedoCon 2021. Now, TorpedoCon, and again, it's not pretty much a video game story, but it's it's a big trip that you and I went on together, through the means of LastCall, and I think it's kind of cool to talk about, especially when we can talk about more than just games, and comics is a big part of our hobby that Andrew and I both super enjoy. So TorpedoCon is kind of like a Comic-Con, if you guys are familiar with that at all, where you can go get things CGC'd, which is pretty mumuch, if you guys can see like the comics in the back wall, like a graded comic book, and you can go get signatures from people, you can go buy merchandise, and you can go do some shopping and things like that. So the big draw that they had for this at the TorpedoCon, because we go to Torpedo Comics in Vegas all the time, so they actually put on their own event in Hollywood, and the draws were Frank Miller, Donnie Cates, Jim Lee, Bill Sienkiewicz, Mark Brooks, Frank Cho, Nick Spencer, and Brian Azzarello. And it was a 3-day event. It ran from Friday to Sunday, and Andrew and I got some VIP passes. We decided to head out there. Who we ended up getting was Donnie Cates and Mark Brooks. Andrew had a book for Bill Sienkiewicz, and some of these things were like VIP only. If you wanted to go see like Frank Miller and Jim Lee, they were like crazy expensive to get passes for. But Donnie Cates was really cool, and Mark Brooks was really cool. So Andrew, what comics did you all bring?
Resident Evil 1.
And what did you want?
Big one,
and what do you hope it's going to come back as?
I hope.
What do you think it would come? What do you think it's going to come back as?
As long as like an 8 something or up.
You think it's only going to be an 8? Was it?
I would
have ticks on it or some spine stuff?
I don't think it's got anything really too much with it, but it is older, so it's probably going to be in the 9s. But I'd be happy with anything 8 or up.
And what does it sell for at all? Did you peek on it and see, or would you have a
raw ungraded copy is like $500 and. Woo. A graded like 9.2, I think was like 1,000 something.
Nice. Now. So one of the big ones I had was I saw it at Thanos 13 that CN got me a while back, and when I was looking them up, Thanos 13s are still going for like $150, $200, and then I had Venom 7, which I know is a pretty hot book right now. So Andrew and I each brought 6 apiece, give or take.
Yeah.
And we went to go get those done. So we saw a lot of cool stuff. We had a good trip, although there was some negatives in this space. So we're going to start with some of like the highlights of what the trip actually was. So the good thing I would say is that cast. Like if you're gonna be, like, especially where we are in Arizona, if you're gonna drive all the way to LA, that's a good list of 8 people that's worth going to see. I mean, some of them were cost way more than the others, but I think overall, you know, if you're going there for someone in particular, like a Frank Miller, you could have got your pass, and I think that's a pretty solid lineup. I don't know who they could have added more to make it more of an appeal, but I think they did a good job, and obviously they have a friendly relationship with all these guys.
Yeah, I thought they were all pretty cool. Like, even meeting each of those people, anyone that we got at time, they were all, like, super nice, super friendly.
The second part I would say that was positive is, so Andrew and I mean, when we were driving, we just kept running into like these dead zones of like stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And we're like, what is the issue with this? Like, what is taking so long? So we thought we were actually going to be kind of late, but right when we were pulling up to this place, this guy was just opening up the parking to the public, and we were the first car in, and they only had 10 spots. So it kind of seemed like our late punctuality ended up working to our favor. So at that point, we thought, hey, maybe we had a good sign.
The reason we'll put that into a good, and for those of you who don't know, in LA, parking is crazy fucking hard to find.
And expensive.
So it's super expensive. You can get towed. It's really hard to find because there's so many businesses and everything's all together that you would have to park like way on the other side of town and then walk down somewhere. And they only have limited parking. Or the only alternative is you park on the street, but they have those quarter meters. So you got to go out there for however fucking long and pump those things full of quarter. I didn't have any quarters anyways. And I don't even know how those things work. I just know that they're there. So that's why that was a big deal for us. So I was like, cool, right as we pulled in, don't even have to worry about it. Let's just get a spot. And that was like the biggest blessing. That was the thing I was most worried about. Is like, all right, cool, this is why we're getting here early, because it's going to take forever to look for a parking spot.
Yeah, so that was kind of lucked out for us. And I got to say, one of the biggest things we were nervous about was going to California, especially with like this second strand of COVID that's been going around, and how California is really not the best place to be in if you're trying to avoid that. So Andrew and I mean, we went there mask ready, hand sanitizer ready. And one of the cool things was, even though the venue wasn't like the biggest place in the world, I thought it was done just right. Like, it wasn't overcrowded, you weren't bumping anybody, it was a mask requirement. I thought it was pretty well spaced out.
Yeah.
So I want to say overall, like, you know, as nervous as we could have been going to said event, you know, from those circumstances, I gotta say I felt very comfortable there.
Yeah, I thought that was actually pretty nice too. Everyone wore their masks. Like, it wasn't like they had to yell at people like, hey, put your shit on. What are you doing? And even still, when we were pulling up, like, I kind of heard them at the door too when they were talking about like, okay, we can only have this many people, so keep that in mind because you got to stop that ticket count right then. Actually, too, when we were signing in, we forgot to write this down. They actually recognized our names.
Yeah.
And there was this one chick, like, we see her all the time when she's up there, but she never really like said hi to us or anything like that, so I just always thought like, okay, we're just coming and going. She doesn't really care because she just kind of works the front. But as soon as we were signing in, she's like, oh, hey, how are you guys doing? It's been a while or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So she does know who we are. And so I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. For someone who I always, not like shit talk, but I'm just like, all right, like kind of whatever you do, and I don't care about you, like whatever. Like, that was kind of a cooler part. Like, all right, well, that made me feel bad now because now I know that you were paying attention.
Yeah,
you know?
Lovely gal, nice personality, and it was cool because when we got there, you know, they give us your VIP passes, which has everyone's name on it, so you got to see who you're for. We got our Mark Brooks poster that they gave us for just going there, and I got to say, at the end of the day, the icing on the cake for going there was that Andrew and I got to meet Comic Tom. Comic Tom is a big Instagram and podcast personality when it comes to the space. Andrew was actually waiting in line. I forget who you were waiting in line for. Was it Sankovic?
Yeah.
So Andrew was waiting for his, and I was kind of walking around, and I heard somebody yell out, "Oh, Comic Tom!" And because I was talking to this John Carpenter booth, they were selling some stuff, and I'm like looking around, and I see him, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" You know, I'm gonna go up there, grab a picture, say hey to him, and start talking to him, and you know, talking about his show and everything. He's like, "Hey man, glad you like it. You know, who you here for? Blah blah blah." And he starts going through his books, and he hands me. It was a Virgin cover, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 110.
Peach Momoka.
Momoka. I always say, I got to read it how it looks to me. And Andrew was looking it up online. A raw cover graded at like 9.8 is going for like 150. So I saw that. I go see Andrew, and I'm like, dude, you know, go check him out. He's right over there. I wait in Andrew's line, and then he went and saw him, and he gave you the same book, right?
Yeah, and actually, too, I didn't kind of look at the variant, but I was looking at the art, and I was like, that kind of looks familiar, because I'm not the biggest into comics. I'm more into video games, but I do watch his channel all the time and see the hot ones, so I know who Peach Momoka is. And so after Craig was like, I never heard of Momoka or something. I was like, Peach Momoka. He gave us a Peach Momoka variant.
Yeah.
And so that was actually a lot cooler because I thought he just gave me some like random book. The art style was pretty nice and everything for it.
I would say that was easily the highlights of it. You know, there was a lot of good stuff to see. You know, I was walking around. They had a lot of like Disney statuettes that were there.
Ton of keys.
Yeah, a lot of key issues. There was a lot of different booths like Red Hood Comics and stuff like that had CGCs out. There was a ton of good stuff to see. So I want to say overall it was a pretty good looking thing. And Andrew, just to clarify, we only went there for Saturday, you know, even though it was a 3-day event. So was there anything else, the highlights you want to mention before we kind of list what the negatives were?
Did you see the wall, like where they had like a bunch of keys and stuff? Did you see the wall they had of like Amazing Fantasy, like the first appearance of Spider-Man?
Yeah, dude.
They had them ranging from like a 2.0 like all the way up. There was like 30 of them, and I was like, damn, that's like they have one for like each and every little grade all the way up. And I was like, dude, that's actually really cool. I mean, they're expensive as fuck.
Yeah, some of these guys, man, just had stacks in the back that were just like all the good stuff you wanted to get that you don't have money to do, but you know, window shopping is just as fun as buying. So for me, I was like, man,
I love seeing them.
That was really cool to see. So let's move into kind of what was a bummer about this place. And I would say the bad thing was the wait lines. And obviously, you know, just like going to Disneyland, there's going to be a wait, and obviously that's going to be the bummer. But we got there at around 11:30, and Donnie Kate started at 12. You know, we jump in line. You know, the line didn't even start moving till like 12:45. So, you know, we're already waiting an hour in line just to get it going. And then it took forever to actually get to him. And the same thing happened with Mark Brooks. We're waiting in line for Mark Brooks, who started at 3. And, you know, he was almost a no-call, no-show. By the time it was 3:45, almost 4, he showed up. And then again, so it was late. It was a late start. And that was a bummer, you know, because we wasted time, you know. And they weren't even, like, saying anything to us until it was, like, almost too late that these guys were, like, an hour late for their start. So, you know, we had to waste time instead of looking around and shopping, of just standing in line and being like, okay, well, you know, it was cool talking to people. We met a lot of cool people and had some good conversations. But, you know, I didn't go there to fucking stand in line for an extra hour when I already knew the line was, you know, the wait was already about an hour and a half, too.
And that's the thing, and like, don't get it wrong, is the lines weren't even long. And that's the problem. Is there was maybe like, in that Donnie Cates line, probably like 30 people.
Yeah.
But even still, just to get to that line took forever. The Bill Sienkiewicz line was not moving at all. I actually didn't have a pass for him. I paid another dude like $20 who had a free extra signature. I was like, hey, man, I had met him in line because I was waiting in line. And we just were talking because we were waiting for like ever. I ended up giving him cash, and then I gave him my comic, and he gave it back to me so that way I could get it graded. But it took him forever just to get to that front of the line. And me and Craig were like talking and even talking with them. That's something maybe that they should have done that's better. It's like, at one point you could have all these people at the front that are like, okay, I'm not here for just signatures. I want like drawings and remarks and all these things. And so the artist, whoever it is, has to sit there and do, you know, a 30-minute sketch, a 15-minute sketch, a 20-minute sketch. And there's a lot of fucking people there that drop a ton of money. And they're like, okay, cool, I want like 5 sketches. Like, I need them all done. And it's like, you couldn't create like a separate line for that. So that was honestly the worst part, is we spent that whole day waiting in line, and by the time we were done and having to fill out the paperwork to get it graded and stuff, I almost kind of didn't even want to walk around to like really actually look. I didn't do any sort of diving. I just saw all the stuff that's on the wall. I didn't look through any bins to try to see if there's any cool deal or something maybe I personally want to do, because by the time I was done with that, I was like, dude, I'm fucking done. Like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah, one of the main things we were talking about is that if we're going to do this again, which, you know, it was fun, you know, but now we learned the weaknesses. We learned what we had to fix. It's a 2-day event. You know, it's one day to bang out what you need to get signed, and the second day is the fun and hunt and look around and see what you can get. Because by the time Andrew and I were done, it was the whole day, and we're just like, you know,
drained.
Yeah, we're drained. You know, the other thing was that it seemed like their staff, as good-hearted and kind and as nice as they were, like, you know, they helped us do a lot. When Andrew was in one line, they were able to, you know, we talked to some people. I was able to get his pass, get his thing booked, and then get his signatures done for him. So they were accommodating, but it seemed they were very like either like unaware of what was happening or just overloaded of what to do, because there was a lot of times where like, okay, well, where does this line end and where does it start? How do we go see this person? You know, who's coming around? Where do you have to go to get it CGC'd and bagged? So I mean, I know this is maybe their second or third one that they've done, but it just seems like they need to be on the ball a little bit more, because we kind of saw a lot of like these little things that could or couldn't have been done, and I'm like, man, they really need to tighten this ship just to make the experience better, instead of being like, oh, why am I even talking to you when you don't seem to know what you're even doing?
Right? There was some dude who got told to wait in line, and he was actually behind me, and he didn't have a VIP pass, but there was no line for people who don't have VIP.
Oh yeah,
he had to go back to that, and he waited the whole time. And then when he got to the front, they're like, oh yeah, sorry, this is for VIP only. So he had to go to the back of the regular line. And I even tried telling him, like, hey, man, like, if I was you, I would just go ask the dude up front and tell him, hey, they told me to do this or that. I'm sure that guy would let you cut him, because you've been up here the whole time.
And he was fun.
Before anyone else was even standing here or anything like that. And he was just a really nice guy. He's like, no, I'll just go wait in the back, man. I was like, that sucks, because the same thing happened to me in the Sienkiewicz line. They had no separate line. There was no other VIPs coming, and then all the VIPs showed up later, and when I made it kind of towards the front, they're like, yeah, we can't do anything, and there's no other line for non-VIP, so I don't know what to tell you. Come back in like an hour and a half, and maybe I'll have an answer for you.
Yeah.
And even going back later, they still didn't have anything, because the dude was drawing so fucking much, so that line wasn't moving.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like that, it's not their fault, or I mean, I wouldn't put all the blame on them, because it is based on the artist. Like, Alex Sinclair completely didn't show up for that day. I don't know if he was gone all weekend, but that whole day, I was sitting next to people who had books for him, and they're like, I'm only here for one day. You know what I mean? So they're stuck on that. Donnie Cates, as cool as he was, he's just too nice of a guy. We were sitting there, and I didn't realize, because last time we saw him, I knew he was kind of losing his hearing. But it wasn't that bad. It was a lot more this time, and people would go there and just talk to him, and it would just hold up these lines. Mark Brooks showed up 45 minutes late, so I don't know. It was a good experience, but like I was telling Andrew,
it needs to be faster and cleaner.
They could definitely clean it up, but it needs to be, the next time we do it, a 2-day event. One to do the hard labor, and the next one to sit back and enjoy. Because when you're going there and all the fun's mixed with all the pain, it's pretty much a wash.
I think next time I might even just send my stuff in through Torpedo, but then just show up at the show myself, just so that way I can walk around and be like, oh, hey, cool, I want to check this out.
Andrew and I were saying, next time, let's not go get CGCs. Let's go hunt. Let's go pick out some key issues and just walk booth to booth and not worry about the signatures.
Serious money on something I've always wanted, yeah.
So, overall, really good trip. Andrew and I had a hotel at the Holiday Inn, which was actually really nice that we got to stay at. Andrew took me to the Hat, which I've never been to.
LA famous spot?
It was a really badass spot. So I would say overall good trip. I would like to do another one. It's just now we know how to do it and what not to do.
You forgot the big problem. There were no graded games.
Oh yeah,
there was like 2 the whole time. Yeah. That was one of the biggest things why we wanted to go. It's on their poster. We'll put up a thing. It said, come check it out. We got graded comics, and then there's another big fucking thing when it comes over. Graded games, check them out, and they had some line about whatever. I didn't even fucking see any. Craig said he saw 2, and he took a picture of one.
Because Andrew's main thing was to go get Resident Evil signed. My whole thing was like, okay, cool, but I want to go see CGC video games.
I wanted to see them too, and maybe buy something.
And I walk around, I found a Super Mario World for 7.5, and I saw Pokemon Blue at a 9.0, and that was it. Like, there was only 2 games, and their big thing was pitching this, and I'm like, cool, I want to go see some cool CGC games back. I almost forgot about that because we got someone in the comic part, but I'm like, this is what you pitch? I mean, I guess maybe Friday they sold out, or somebody came there and cleaned house. But I'm like, if you're gonna pitch this whole thing on 2 fucking games in this whole store, and again, that's almost why we made this a topic, because we were gonna go there and see games, and if there were games, it would have been cool to talk about how badass we saw this, that, and the other. But and it was the same booth. And when I went there twice to go ask, like, hey, how much is this? No one was there. So I couldn't even get a price on what the Super Mario World was cost. Well, it was still behind glass and locked, but there was like no one there to like talk to me. And I'm like, well, how much is this? Because that would have been cool to know. And so yeah, my main thing was to go there for the games, and I seek video games. Denied.
That was my first question. I was like, how much was that Pokemon? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no one was there to talk about it. So yeah, that was a bummer. And so, do you think it was, I mean, were we lied to? Were we misdirected? Was it false advertising? Or is it all the above? And because their whole pitch was like there was more than just comic books there, and the video games was going to be a big aspect of it, and there was nothing there to even talk about besides those 2 games in one booth with nobody tending it.
Yeah, that was definitely my biggest hype. Was I really wanted to see some of that stuff, especially since that Mario 64 didn't sell for like millions of dollars.
It was big time, and again, we're window shoppers, so I would like to at least see it and take a picture of it and be like, hey, that was there.
Yeah, I'm too poor to afford it, but hey, I would love. Yeah, exactly. I would love to watch it. Love to say like I was in vicinity of this. I think that's fucking crazy cool.
Yeah, so that was our TorpedoCon 2021. Good trip. We saw some good people. Talked to some good people, got some good things signed, but the overall outcome is that next time we do it, we make it a mission and not just like a day up, day back kind of thing, right?
Right.
So, anything else you want to add on that before we move to our other story?
No. Oh no. I mean, I had fun, but there was a lot of negative to it too.
So let's move into our next story, guys, and that is that Netflix is adding games to its service. Now, a while back, we had a friend of the show, Kyler Johnson, ask us on episode 87 if we ever thought Netflix would dabble in adding games to it, kind of like how Apple does with its Apple Arcade. And Andrew and I, for different reasons, we're kind of like, overall the consensus was like, no. I don't know if now A would be the time to even jump in it with how much they're in debt, and B, you've got big competitors stepping up in the movie aspect of it. Why would you change your focus to that? But the more I kind of sat back and looked at it, because now it seems that it is happening. Maybe this is the way for Netflix to kind of stand out and be like, because to win the streaming war, it's gonna be all about content. And one thing to stand out is, okay, well, now we have video games. So before I read this article, what's your quick thought on that?
I want to jump in and say that some Netflix bigwig watches our show and saw that we said, nah, they wouldn't make games. They wouldn't be interested. And out of spite, they're making it now to spite us. So
let me read this to you guys real quick.
You're welcome if you want a Netflix gaming.
Yeah, this comes from Variety. It's kind of a big article. So here's what they say just to kind of catch you guys up. It says, on the gaming front, Netflix said it's in the early stages of further expanding into games, building on our earlier efforts around interactivity and our Stranger Things games. Last week, Netflix said it hired video game veteran Mike Verdu, formerly at Facebook's Oculus Studios and EA, as VP of Game Development. Verdu reports to COO and Chief Product Officer Greg Peters. Netflix plans to create games based on its original TV shows and films, as well as introduce completely new games and license some titles. Peters told investors on the Q2 earnings interview, "We view gaming as another new content category for us, similar to our expansion into original films, animation, and unscripted TV," the company said in the Q2 letter to investors. Games will be included in members' Netflix subscription at no additional cost, similar to films and series. Initially, we'll be primarily focused on games for mobile devices. Wah, wah. We're excited as ever about our movies and TV series offerings, and we expect a long runway of increasing investment and growth across all our existing content categories. But since we are nearly a decade into our push into original programming, we think the time is right to learn more about how our members value games. So, I gotta say, the first thing, it sounds, so obviously, that was 10 episodes ago when Kyler asked us about it. And so I gotta say, that is a 2 months, 2.5 months of time to where now it's kind of, Netflix is saying this, and it's interesting. But the first thing you look at is like, oh, we're doing mobile games. And, I don't know if that makes anybody happy. I hear mobile games. I mean, I guess it's easy.
Not for me.
Yeah, I guess it's an easy place to start. But because one of the things, further in the article, and if you guys want to read it again, it's on Variety, is there's no timetable for this. It just says we're going to start moving into it, and here's how we're going to probably start doing it. But this thing could be 5 years away. There's no inclination that this thing is going to be next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon. It doesn't sound like it's going to be, especially if that's going to be the main case with mobile games. That was kind of the big thing I looked at as like okay. And the second one's, we're going to look at our original content. But it's like, well, then what are you going to make games on? Bright, Cobra Kai, more Stranger Things games that do okay. Bridgerton, Spirit. Like, what do you have that's going to be like, oh, this is worth making a game? Because look at the Stranger Things game and like Cobra Kai. They're not mind-blowing. It's not games that are like, oh, that's a must-have.
That was my idea of when I kind of heard this too, is like, well, what property do you really have that you're going to back this, that you're really trying to make like transcend? Because I don't think, I mean, as big as like Stranger Things or whatever it is they don't have anything that's in like the Harry Potter like atmosphere that's like, okay, we got to make a game about this to like capitalize, you know, something of that sort of capital. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that it's not just the fact that it's only going to be mobile, but now they're entering an even more crowded and saturated market, because mobile is the most crowded and saturated, but video games of all things, everyone's been kind of dabbling in them. I mean, we got Stadia, who owns YouTube, so that's technically kind of like a video player. The only reason I recognize them was something trying to run up against Xbox and PlayStation, which I would maybe even say that's a lot less more accessible than like being whatever on a phone, because anyone can put anything on a phone. So that might even be whatever. They didn't end up doing anything. Stadia's kind of not doing anything. Amazon's already invested in the Luna cloud gaming service. They haven't really done anything with that. Apple, like you had mentioned, has Apple TV, Apple Arcade. So there's already all these other competitors that have done something before you. And maybe I would say those people are arguably bigger too. Google's bigger than Netflix. Amazon's bigger than Netflix. Apple's bigger than Netflix. So they have more money to throw around at whatever, that I don't really know what they can bring to the table that would be different without partnering with someone.
Yeah, because one of the things they said is they want to do licenses. And it's like, okay, well, you've already got some rights with some old, like they were licensing things with Marvel, and they had things like the Defenders and everything like that. But it's like right now, you know, they're with The Witcher. They have Castlevania. They've got the Assassin's Creed coming up. So maybe they could do Netflix exclusive games based on those worlds. That'd be kind of where my gaming mind would go to over anything that they have originally, or anything that would be, you know, starting at mobile based. But it's just like Andrew's saying, it's like there's so many more big competitors that why, because at the end of it, it says, oh, now we think it's a good time to learn about video games. It's like, don't take that on like haphazardly, because how many people start shit and fail or do nothing with it? And now you're seeing the Steam Deck jump in with PC. Like, the only good thing I see out of this is that it's going to be free for memberships to start out with. And I guess that's kind of cool, but where's it going to go? And that's got to be, you know, the end game. And the fact that they don't know, I mean, I'm sure they do, but the article's suggesting that they're not sure where it's going to go, but we want to get there. It's like, well, that doesn't really seem like a good plan.
Without seeing anything, I don't really think or imagine there's anything they could really bring to the gaming market that would be new or valuable for anyone to learn off of. That I would rather them take that money that they were going to spend and put it behind a bigger production for things like Castlevania, like The Witcher. Focus on making those shows bigger and better, more mainstream, so that way you can get more things out there, acquire more IP like The Legend of Zelda or like a Metroid, or, you know, get these other big names and keep bringing that stuff to the forefront and focus on making those. And I feel like that's the way that you can contribute and help gaming, that people could take a lesson from the Castlevania, the way that they did that story. Even Konami itself could turn around and be like, okay, you know what, that's how Castlevania is done. This is what Castlevania is. People love this. We need to make our next game kind of based around the heart of what this show is, because this show's killing it. That's the mark I think that they could leave, and that's what they should do. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be cool if they could just do Bluetooth controllers to your TV. That, you know, every TV's got Netflix, you know, pre-built. Any smart TV has Netflix built into it. If they could somehow get the infrastructure working and the games behind it to support it, I mean, Bluetoothing your controller to the app on your TV and playing something that's cool. Because if they can get that third-party support, which is really what they're going to need, because I don't see their first-party games being anything, you know, mind-blowing. I can't even fathom what that would be. But if they get some good third-party support, I mean, it's got potential. But, I mean, we can't really dive into it because this is baby steps on baby steps. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't in the ether yet. It's just...
It's like 2025
Yeah, it's a sentence saying, yeah, we're going to start. And it'll probably start with mobile games. So it's like, well, then I'm not really interested. But talk to me in, you know, if it starts in 5, talk to me in 10, and let's see where it's going to go. But you've got so many other forward-thinking and progressive ideas happening with bigger companies such as like Microsoft, now the Steam Deck, and I'm sure Sony's working on something, because, you know, there was these rumors that, oh, if Sony could partner with Netflix and make some sort of Game Pass, you know, that could be huge, and maybe it would be, but, you know, we're not here to speculate on that rumor.
I don't see how that would
We're
be
still
huge,
speculating
yeah.
on what are they going to do in 5 years to survive. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting. This news came out about 2-3 days ago, so it's something to keep an eye on, but, you know, Kyler's question, you know, could it ever happen? I guess now we're in the process of yes, but now it's going to be when. So,
I'll eat krill because I said no first.
Hey, he said no first. So, anything else you want to add on that?
No, not really.
All right, so let's move into riffing it up. So,
didn't you say that shirt was lost the other day?
No, I can't find my LastCall Gaming shirts with the controllers for the M's.
Oh.
Like, I can't. I've looked through all my shirts. I'm like, did I just give all those shirts away?
My white one's hanging in the closet. I've never had a black one.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to dig through more clothes. But, yeah, I was looking for some, and I'm like, I need more of those shirts. But, so my first riff, guys, is that the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics have started. They kicked off last Friday, and they're starting to show video games a little bit of love. So let me read this quick article from Polygon, and it says this. So the 2020 Tokyo Olympics kicked off Friday officially with the Olympic opening ceremony. The ceremonies began with song, dance, and a tribute to Japanese carpentry, followed by the traditional Parade of Nations. This year's Parade of the Olympians may have sounded familiar. It was all video game music, starting with Dragon's Quest's iconic theme. Athletes from Greece walked through the eerily empty stadium to Dragon Quest Overture Roto's theme, followed immediately by Final Fantasy's Victory Fanfare. Square Enix's role-playing games were all represented at the Olympic opening ceremony, with selections from the Saga, Chrono, Kingdom Hearts, and Nier series. Even Gradius and Soul Calibur made an appearance. And I gotta say, leave it to Japan to do this, because that is so immersed in their culture, but
I thought it was super cool.
To an untrained ear, and you watch them coming out, the music's beautiful. Yeah. You're going to listen to this thing of, man, these kind of orchestras.
It doesn't sound like video game music.
Yeah, anybody that's playing video games is hearing this going, I know that tune. Hey, I know that tune. And I don't know, I just thought it was something kind of cool to bring up and talk about, because it just shows that, games, no matter what the capacity, has a place in more than just games. And the fact that it's, was represented in the Olympics by Japan with these beautiful scores and songs, I just thought was really cool. And Andrew, as a music guy, I don't know if you took it any differently, but it's super cool, right?
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, okay, that's instantly like Final Fantasy VII. That's Kingdom Hearts. I was like, that's badass. Like, I love seeing when things do stuff like that, because you even kind of see that. That was kind of more in like I want to say like a high-end capacity, where it's supposed to be like a kind of like a respectful event, almost like music that you play like during a wedding or a ceremony or something like that. But you've kind of been seeing that a little bit more too lately when you watch like football games and you see the bands do like Pac-Man or Zelda, and they made the horse and stuff like that. So I think it's cool to see like that music kind of really get out there, because that music is designed to like make you think. There is a lot of fundamental stuff that goes into it, and it's crazy.
And and that just hit a worldwide audience. So I don't know, I thought it was I loved super cool. So that was it for my riff. Just something cool to bring to your attention if maybe you missed it.
My riff is something that I'm super hyped for. EA Play just happened. I didn't really think it was that great. Kind of fizzled out really for me. I did like that they showed off some Battlefield stuff, but the big thing was the Ender. They did show a teaser for the Dead Space remake. Now, that's something that I'm super hyped for, because I absolutely love Dead Space. Visceral is no longer around anymore. That's the people who originally made that. EA shuttered them quite a while ago. This is being made by Motive Studios. And now I'm not really too... I would have to see more, because, the only thing that they've really kind of worked on is Battlefront 2, which I like the story of Battlefront 2. So, I thought that was cool storytelling. And Squadrons, which, again, neither of these really have anything to do with an enclosed survival horror game. So, there's a lot that they can learn from. They did put out like a little interview saying that, we're going to remake 1, but we're going to take parts of the lore, which I think is great, because I thought that's the perfect idea, is if you're going to remake it, keep the important stuff that's there, but now you have the chance to take things from 2, things from 3, things from like the anime that kind of makes sense into this world, because that lore has always really been like expanded, because it's in comic books, it's in all kinds of different things that it makes sense and it flows together really well, that it's nice to see that they're going to take it and try to make the best story and put their right foot forward really going into it. I just wonder how they're kind of going to twist it up, because my biggest concern, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it, but that game's old by now, is in Dead Space 1, when you go to the ship that's obviously infected, you're chasing around your girlfriend the whole time, but it turns out you've just been hallucinating and that she's actually dead. And if you actually look at the first letter of every chapter, it spells out Nicole is dead. So now you got to come up with a different twist, because that thing was mind-blowing the first time. Like, I didn't think she was dead. I was like, damn, that's so fucking badass. Like, that was one of those games where I didn't see it coming at the time, and so it kind of blew my mind. So hopefully they can keep something like that within this remake.
Yeah, one of the things I was listening to on that is that they still have all the original like floor plans and ideas that they were going to do with the game back in the day, but they knew they were limited by the hardware and they couldn't make it, so they made the game the way they did. But now that next gen is where it is, they're pulling out like all their old, like they still have all the files. So, like,
content
here's all the stuff we wanted to do and couldn't, and now we can. So it is kind of cool to be like, okay, cool, man. They've been waiting for something as powerful enough as, you know, the PS5 and the Series X to make these games, and the fact that, like you're saying, they're going to kind of blend these 1, 2, and 3 together. So it is kind of cool that not so much of a remake, but also like a reboot and a retelling of it.
Yeah.
It's good because Andrew keeps telling me to play these games and play them.
I was saying, have you played any of them?
But for me,
I don't think so. Right?
I started number 1 or 2, whatever one you told me to, I think you said skip 1 and play 2, but it's just hard to go back and play like 360 games sometimes when there's just so many more modern games to play. So the fact that this one's coming out, this one seems like a no-brainer. So yeah, really cool and interesting stuff, and it definitely, even as a teaser and as small as it was, it definitely, for us at least, stole the show, at least in my
opinion. It got
me,
especially as soon as that like little low, like the original trailer, the twinkle twinkle, and I'm like, damn, like that's it. Like
it was almost like the Ultron that you have no strings on. It was like that cool, like twisted remake of it.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you were doing that, I wasn't thinking Ultron. I was thinking of the movie Gamer, where Terry Crews is like.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever. I thought that's where you're going at first, and I was like, oh wait, never mind. He said Ultron, but either way,
with Gerard Butler in it. Yeah, that was a good one.
I like that movie.
It was a good movie. So we are running late on time, but we got 2 questions that we're gonna burn through real quick. So first question comes from Talha Kasim, and he writes, would you guys like to come here for a holiday in the future? Budapest is like one of the biggest tourist cities, and we could hang out around the city and have a great time. I'll be your tour guide, and I gotta say, that's cool. One of the cool things about having our show, and you know, not just, you know, a small audience once upon a time that we had, but kind of, you know, without, I don't want to say braggy or overconfident, but just we're kind of hitting a bigger worldwide
other places.
Audience. And, you know, if somebody, because, you know, last week we had someone, you know, ask if we wanted to go. Randy wanted us to go to, you know, the wrestling match. Talha is asking us, you know, would we ever consider going there? Yes. Obviously, we want to travel, you know, in this lifetime and to as many places as we can. You know, if it works, timing and price, I'd love to go up, meet with you, man, and, you know, you show us a good time in Budapest. That'd be awesome.
I would definitely go. I'd be super down for it. But I have a crazy, irrational fear of fucking flying. I am deathly afraid of flying. I get anxiety just pulling up to the airport and watching planes take off. Like, it makes my heart fucking race. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to get on a plane. And I'm trying, and that's something I'm kind of working on. I've been looking into it. They have, like, classes for that are supposed to, like, help you out. And then eventually you work your way onto, like, a plane that's not like flying too high, and then you do the actual.
How expensive is that? How many planes you got to get in?
I don't know, but whatever it takes, I'm kind of looking into something like that because I do want to go places, but I'm fucking like devastatingly scared of flying.
We'll get you on Flight Simulator on the Game Pass. We'll get you started. You know, I'll serve you a cocktail. And I'll take you to Budapest.
As much as you hate talking about it, I think that my irrational fear stems from when I was a kid watching the first Final Destination and watching the fucking plane shake and then like just break apart. And like that traumatized me as a kid. Because that scene is scary as fuck.
So Andrew's going to go by boat. And, you know, he'll be there in a couple weeks.
I'll go around the peninsula and I'll meet you there.
But yeah, if we can figure it out, man, I'd love to, because I love traveling different places. And hey, never been to Budapest. So.
I've watched the video, and I think it looks beautiful there. Like, seeing some of the stuff
they got gorgeous water. Last question comes from Valkyrie, and they write, hey, guys, I would like to know, what is your favorite Stan Lee Marvel cameo appearance? I answered first last time. Why don't you answer first this one?
All right, so I got a cheat one and then a real one, just because I had to put it in there.
There's nothing wrong with an honorable mention.
It's within a Marvel property, but it's a Fox movie, and I would actually say Deadpool, when he's like the fucking DJ at the strip club, and it's like, you might not be able to find love, but here you can get whatever for like $5 or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think capitalized Marvel.
I think that one's so hilarious. But my favorite within like the Marvel is Thor Ragnarok, where like he goes to cut fucking Thor's hair. He's like, don't move, I'm not too steady with this, and he's like begging him not to cut his hair.
He's just horrified.
He's like, please cut, man, don't cut my hair.
Oh, that's a good one.
So that's my favorite one.
It's a great question too, because it's something I think anybody watching the show has probably watched Marvel movies and knows their favorite.
I want to guess yours, and I want to say it's where he's
don't look at my paper.
Without looking at the paper, I didn't see it. Is where he's delivering the mail, and it's like Tony Stank.
No.
Am I right?
No. Because there are so many
Good
that they only started getting better and better. Because the original ones, he almost didn't even talk sometimes. He would just be like a face. Like when he saw him as like his Hugh Hefner, it was like just a quick little thing.
Oh, hey Hugh, and he's like,
and they completely kind of like evolved that thing to be like, you know what, people love these. Let's give them lines. Let's give them scenes. Like Spider-Man comes to mind when he's cleaning, and then that whole fight scene. But the one I like the best is in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, nice.
When in the movie, at first, they shoot by him, and he's like in an astronaut suit, and he's talking to the Watchers, and the Watchers are the people that, you know, in the MCU that look over everything, and he's like starting to tell them about his cameo as a delivery man in an MCU movie.
Yeah, I remember
while
that.
he's in an MCU movie, so that just breaks all kinds of walls. And then, but his post-credit scene is him still talking to them, and they're like bored with him at this point. They're like, and they start leaving, and he's like, "No, don't leave." I thought that one was probably my favorite just because it was so meta.
I love that one too.
And then the other one that I really like is, because I'm a Kevin Smith fan, is in Captain Marvel when he's riding the bus and he's reading the Mallrats screenplay. And to get his, I
love the
job for that one
too. But
so
yeah, that one's actually really good too. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, because I mean, in both of those, he actually is Stan Lee instead of being a caricature of Stan Lee or a Hugh Hefner type person.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Isn't he like Larry King at some point or something?
Yeah, I think
like that?
so.
So I don't know. There's a ton to choose from, and there's really no wrong answer. So. Thank you for the question, and as always, guys, if you want to leave us a question, feel free to jump in the YouTube comments or email us or Twitter us or Instagram us, and we'll be happy to add it to the show and answer it. So this show went extra long, but I don't know. We talked about Torpedo and all kinds of good stuff, so I think a very strong episode. So until next time, guys, my name is Craig Prowlis, and that is Mandrew Montemare. Oh,
And since we're talking about it, here's you, Stanley.
Hey, Stanley. Can I get these in red?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Just
There's some paint pens, you gotta let them dry.
Yeah,
you gotta let it dry just a little bit. That table over there is open if you just kind of want to leave it to like dry for a second. As soon as it's not shiny anymore, it should be fine.
Awesome, man. Super appreciate it. Love your stuff, man.
No, thank you so much, man.
We saw you back in Vegas, and
oh, cool. At Torpedo?
yeah, Torpedo, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of fun.
Well, you're seeing me again at Torpedo.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like. This works out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.